I've done here is to create 4 pages about the garden pond, which is very important to wildlife. I've created one on frogs, one on ducks, one on the heron, and the first page that I showed you, the one on the garden pond. Now it would be very nice if we could present these pages as a group. Of course, one thing that you could do is simply change the order of the links, and a quick way to do that when you're hovering over the menu is just to list the links and just drag the links into the right order so it now goes pond, frogs, ducks, heron, and just save the configuration. A better way to do this would be to make a submenu, a little bit like these menus on the right hand side of the screen, called pond, that actually groups these items all together in a specific collection. And to do this, first we need to create a menu, which we do by going to Structure, Menus, Add a Menu, and we're going to call this menu Pond. Actually, perhaps we should call it the Pond. And then we save, and we now have a menu, but there's no links yet. Now, it can be very tempting to manually add links, and we will do this, but if you manually add links, they don't automatically update as you change things on your system. So it's worth going through the procedure to automatically create links so that as your InfoPoint system develops, the links are always kept up to date. So now what we're going to do is set a menu up so the links can be automatically added. So once again we click on Structure, and now we click on Content Types. Now for each content type in turn, so we've got at the moment on our system we have 6 here, so I'm afraid we have to do this 6 times. We go to the Edit, go down to Menu Settings and check the pond, and then we save the content type. And we do this again. And as this is a screen recording, I've now done all the previous or 5 of the content types. I'm just working on the 6th one now, and that's coming up on the screen. We finally set the menu for the pond on the 6th content type, and now we've enabled this menu for all 6 of our content types. Our next job is to tell the menu where we want it to appear, and once again we do this by going to Structure, and now we're going to go to Blocks, and if we go down this screen towards the bottom, we will find the pond. Now we can drag the pond up the screen to where we want it to appear, and what I would suggest that we actually want it to appear in the sidebar second, with some of these other examples on this particular info point. So there it is, the pond is now in sidebar second. There was actually a quick way to do this. If you were to just click this drop down menu, you see all the available regions, and you can click on the sidebar settings. So we have 2 ways of moving this into position. Now there's a configure link here. We're going to come back to that in a minute, but first don't leave that alone. What we must do is make sure we've saved the pond. It's highlighted in yellow, so right down at the bottom of the screen is Save Blocks. We click Save Blocks and we now have the pond in the sidebar second. Now if we were to go to the home page, we would see precisely nothing. The sidebar, the menu, has not appeared in the sidebar, and the reason for this is that at the moment there are no links. So don't panic, we will make the menu appear when there are links that need to be displayed. Now what we're going to do is add frogs, ducks and heron to our pond menu, and we do this by first of all visiting frogs, go to edit and go down to the bottom of the screen and choose the pond menu. Here do a save, and straight away the pond menu appears because it now has its first item in it. We now visit ducks, edit, change from the main menu to the pond menu. Be careful to always choose the pond with chevrons in rather than one of the sub-menu items like frogs. Save, and you noticed as we are adding it to the pond menu, the links are automatically disappearing from the main menu. And now we're going to select heron, edit the heron, change from the main menu item to the pond, save, and we now have the all the three items grouped together into the pond menu. Notice though that if we visit the home page, this menu still appears, and what we want to do now is just to control the appearance of it so it only appears when we visit the pond. So what we're going to do now is set some rules that control when the pond menu appears, and what we want it to do is only appear when we've selected the main menu link, the pond. In this case it's just simply called pond. So what we do, we visit the pond page, edit it, and we're not going to change the menu link at all. If we wanted to, we could change the menu link to the pond, and now it will be the pond when we save. But what we need to do is change the path, and what we're going to do is change the path so that it begins with pond and then put a right slash, and we're going to make all the items relating to the pond always have a path name that begins pond. So we save this, and now we have the link, the pond, up there. Now the next thing we need to do is start setting the setting the rules. So if we hover over the pond menu, click and go to configure block, you could reach this by going to structure and then block, but this is the quick way. So we go to configure block, and towards the bottom we have some visibility settings. Our choices are all the pages except those listed, only the listed pages, pages on which this PHP code returns true, experts only. You'll almost never use that. What you'll want most of the time is only the listed pages, and we're going to type pond and then our slash and then a star. So what that means is the menu will only appear on pages where the path begins with pond and the right slash. Windows users, make sure you don't use a left slash, always use the right hand slash or it won't work. And now the pond appears here on this page, and if we visit the home page, the menu disappears. So we now have to modify the path for each of the pond items. So starting from the top of the menu, we go to frogs, edit the frogs, the URL path settings, uncheck automatic, and add pond and /, save. Do the same for ducks. Change the path settings again. Save. And finally the same for the heron. Change the path settings again. And I made a mistake there, didn't I? So we make sure we do it right. Okay, pond / heron. Save. And now when we visit each of the items in turn, the pond menu remains. If we visit home, the menu disappears. Now a little refinement would be, it'd be really nice if we had a pond home. If you have a lot of items in your sub-menu, it is really nice to be able to go back to the home page, the landing page for that sub-menu, without having to click on the main menu link. It's just a refinement. So the way we would do this is, first of all, go up to your browser bar and highlight the part of the path name after the IP LAN. You don't want the leading slash, so in this case it's going to be pond/pond HTML, and copy that, write it down if you like, because you'll need that in a moment. Now what we're going to do is go back into the edit menu option, which again we do by hovering over the block, click the drop down button, yes, list the links, and we're going to add a link. And this is one of the few occasions when you really do want to manually add the link, and we're going to call it pond home. And the path is the path that we just made a note of, so pond/pond.html. There's no leading slash, really important that, and the parent link remains the pond, and the link is enabled. And what we're going to do now is save it, and then let's just drag it to the top, because I think that's where a home link should be. Save the configuration. And now let's go to the home page of the info point. So we're going to visit the pond, and you can see that the pond and the pond home are both highlighted there, the selected menus. And now we can visit frogs, ducks and heron, and return home. So this is a really nice helpful navigation feature, and just the little bit of extra that makes it easier for users to navigate around your options when you have a very, very long list. Finally, let's log out of the system and see how it appears to visitors to our info point. So we're on the home page. Let's visit the pond, and our pond menu appears, and we can visit each of the items in turn and returned to our pond home. I hope you found this instructional video useful.